for showing up for our third and final chat with the Dewey Divas. Today we have Rosalyn Steele. Rosalyn Steele is the Director of Library and Academic Sales at HarperCollins Canada. A passionate reader, Rosalyn loves discovering new authors and talking about them to whoever will listen. She also bakes a mean cookie, or so she's told, and tries to follow the sage advice of Dr. Seuss, who once reputedly said, "Fill your house with stacks of books in all the crannies and all the nooks." Wise advice. So without further ado, here's Rosalyn.
Hi there, I'm Rosalyn Steele from HarperCollins, here to talk about some of my favorite books from our fall 2020 list that would be perfect for book clubs. First up, we have The Book of Hidden Wonders by Polly Crosby. This is an award-nominated debut from a British author. It is being published in the UK with the title The Illustrated Child. This book was darker than I expected, but utterly captivating. I was reminded in parts of I Capture the Castle, The Particular Sadness of Lemon Cake, and The Book of Speculation. The book opens when 9-year-old Romilly Kemp and her father move into a large ramshackle house in the countryside. They are not wealthy, but Romilly, who is being homeschooled by her father, is never short of love or adventure as she explores both the ground and the house with her kitten Monty. To make ends meet, her father writes and illustrates a book starring Romilly and Monty, which becomes a huge hit. With secrets hidden in the art and the text, their home becomes a favorite destination for treasure seekers who are convinced that the books point to a secret treasure. But as Romilly starts to grow up, her father becomes increasingly swept up in his imaginary world, drawing inside himself. Romilly's enchanted childhood grows ever more neglected and lonely, her only friend a wild girl named Stacy from the village who comes and goes. She starts to realize that the clues hidden in the book are actually meant for her and point to a family secret that might explain her father's illness as well as her mother's abandonment. With a gothic tone and heartbreaking story, The Book of Hidden Wonders celebrates the imagination and examines themes of coming of age, mental illness, fame, and self-discovery. Lots of rich fodder for book club discussions. Next up is The Brilliant Life of Eudora Honeysett by Annie Lyons. With the chaos all of the chaos in this world, this charming story of friendship is the breath of fresh air readers are looking for. Eudora, Stanley, and Rose are a trio of unlikely friends that will brighten everyone's day. At age 85, Eudora Honeysett is tired of the indignities of aging and has decided that she's lived long enough. She makes an appointment at a clinic in Switzerland to end her life on her own terms and proceeds to set her affairs in order. What she didn't count on is Rose, a 10-year-old bundle of cheer who has moved in next door, who drags a reluctant Eudora along with her recently widowed neighbor Stanley out of the house and into a series of adventures that threaten to rekindle her joy in life. Eudora's life was irrevocably changed and shaped during World War II with the death of her father, and Rose and her family are bringing back all sorts of memories of her own childhood. Eudora's memories are played out in flashbacks throughout the novel and play a key part in the story. The Brilliant Life of Eudora Honeysett is a pull at your heartstrings story that readers will want to recommend to everyone they know. It's also perfect for book clubs with its portrayal of multi-generational friendship, love, and loss, complicated family situations, and what it means to have both a good life and a good death. Next up, we have Crosshairs by Catherine Hernandez. This is the much buzzed about new novel from Toronto-based author Catherine Hernandez. You'll know her as the author of Scarborough, which was longlisted for Canada Reads and named a Globe and Mail National Post and Quill and Choir Best Book of the Year. Crosshairs was inspired by the Pulse nightclub shooting in Florida a few years back, as Catherine imagined a world where queer people and people of color had to fight back against oppression. Crosshairs is set in the near future where widespread flooding has led to devastation and massive homelessness in Canada. A government-sanctioned regime called Boots uses the disaster as a chance to further their own agenda and force communities of color, the disabled, and LGBTQ+ people into labor camps in the city of Toronto in service of true Canadians. It is centered around 5 characters who have suddenly become persecuted outsiders and have to form an underground resistance planning for revolution. Their leader is Kay, a queer femme drag performer of Filipino Jamaican background. This dystopian Canada feels uncomfortably possible. In addition to the labor camps, there is the murder and dehumanization of BIPOC and queer Canadians, It also touches on issues that are already in the news today, the government's treatment of Indigenous peoples, racism within the queer community, and much more. While very dark in places, the quote from Sherry Demeline that you can see on your screen, I think sums it up best, saying that it gifts us with the steps to take in order to get to the other side together. So this would be a perfect choice for book clubs, tons to discuss. Next up is the, oh, sorry, skipped over. As you can see, it's been getting tons of amazing reviews. Next up is The Daughter of Black Lake by Kathy Marie Buchanan. So Kathy is the Toronto-based author of the bestsellers The Day the Falls Stood Still and The Painted Girls. In Daughter of Black Lake, Kathy has once again created a world of unforgettable characters, this time setting her book in an isolated community in England at the end of the Roman Empire. The small Black Lake community has had little contact with the outside world, but Druids want to hide weapons there to fuel the rebellion against the Roman invaders. The story centers around a blacksmith, his wife named Devout, who is a healer, and their daughter, Hobble, who was born with a limp and a birthmark. Under the old beliefs, these physical differences mark her as less worthy. Those with differences are considered expendable and are often used as sacrifices. But Hobble also has a gift. She can see into the future. When a new powerful druid comes to the village and discovers her gift, he wants to use her talent to fuel the rebellion. If her dad refuses, she'll be sacrificed. The story alternates between mother and daughter as Hobble walks a fine line to protect her family in her changing world. Meticulously researched with powerful storytelling that grabs you and won't let you go until you are done. This is perfect for both historical fiction readers and those who love a high stakes, very immersive read. Next up, we have The Historians by Cecilia Eckbach. This is Cecilia's third book after Wolf Winter and the Midnight Sun. She now lives in Canmore, Alberta, but was born in Sweden, where all of her books are set, each very loosely centered around one mountain in Lapland. Her past two books were set in 1700 and 1855. So the 1943 setting of The Historians is her most current in terms of time. I must admit to knowing very little about Sweden, Norway, Finland, and Denmark's part in World War II, so this book was particularly eye-opening for me. The plot centers around a group of university students, Laura, Britta, Eric, Matti, and Karl Heinrich, who prior to the war participated in a discussion group and study project led by a charismatic professor at their university. He was part of the Swedish Racial Institute, studying eugenics and human genetics. Their close friendship broke down after a fierce argument about the results of their project, and most of them haven't remained in touch. Laura is now assistant to the chief negotiator between Sweden, which is neutral in the war, and the German government. She meets up with Britta, who is now a grad student, for a coffee date. Britta is different than the lively, carefree girl she was as an undergrad, very jittery and worried. Laura is left with the feeling that Britta wanted to tell her something, but changed her mind. The next day, Britta is found executed with obvious signs that she has been tortured. Laura is devastated and becomes determined to find out what happened. The second point of view character is Jens, who's secretary to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, who suspects that his boss is collaborating with the Nazis. After receiving Britta's PhD thesis on Scandinavian supremacy, he learns of her death, and his search for the truth starts to overlap with Laura's. At the same time, a young Indigenous Sami boy named Tenelli starts to investigate after his sister and many other of the Sami disappear. It seems to be linked to the iron mine and a mysterious operation further up the mountain that even the mine director and the foreman, who is Britta's father, doesn't know the truth about. So while this book could be read as a very tense wartime mystery, there is much here for book clubs to talk about, such as the mistreatment of Indigenous people, racism in a part of the world that doesn't immediately spring to mind when thinking of these issues. The author has included a great author's note with more historical background at the end of the book, which I found just fascinating. She wrote this book wondering how, given the circumstances, how far would people have been prepared to take their thinking? Where would they have drawn a line in the sand? How could countries that had been in unions with each other take such different stances during the war? Next up is the last story of Mina Lee by Nancy Ju-Young Kim. It was announced in September that Reese Witherspoon had selected this as her book club for that month. This is another debut from a great new talent. After discovering that her mother's death wasn't an accident, as the police ruled, Margot Lee investigates the life of her mother, Mina, who was an immigrant from Korea, and discovers that she didn't know her mother half as well as she had thought. Woven into Margot's story is Mina's, who came to the US as an undocumented immigrant. This book blends together a murder mystery, a surprising love story, a powerful mother-daughter saga. It expertly mixes literary writing with a gripping plot to create a very immersive, fast-paced read as the secrets of Mina's past are gradually revealed. There's lots of themes to discuss, such as identity, family, loss, the immigrant experience, poverty, and sacrifice. And the author was inspired to write about this experience because of her parents' background. Both of them fled from North Korea and were separated from their families at the border. They too eventually came to America and started a new life for themselves. And that authenticity really shines through in Mina's perspective as she struggles to acclimatize to this new American life. So this is the perfect book for readers of Celeste Ng, Jean Kwok, Angie Kim, and Lisa Ko. Next up, we have Leave the World Behind by Rumaan Alam. This is about a white couple staying at a rental property on Long Island who gets unexpected visitors, a Black couple who claim to be the owners of the rental and have come back to stay there because of their huge blackout affecting New York City. With communications down and no way to verify their story, can this couple's story be trusted? This book reads like a modern Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, and Alam's insight into parenthood, marriage, race, and class are perfect for today and perfect for discussion. The timely social issues are all wrapped up in a story that feels both fresh and highly readable, as you're not quite sure what the nature is of the disaster that is affecting North America. The reviews for this book have been phenomenal, as you can see on the screen, lots of starred reviews, and it's been now shortlisted for the 2020 National Book Award. Next up, we have The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. A depressed woman feeling as though she has lost everything decides to commit suicide at midnight. She wakes to find herself in the Midnight Library, a place out of time run by her childhood librarian. It is filled with books documenting other possible paths her life might have taken had she made different choices. She has to read the books, decide which life she wants, or her life really will be over. I absolutely love Matt Haig's writing. His books are smart and meaningful with great characters and inspirational takeaway messages. Also, most of his books incorporate mental health issues, and this one is no exception. I think David Nichols, author of One Day, summed up this book perfectly in a review when he called it an uplifting, poignant novel about regret, hope, and second chances. Next up is Road Out of Winter by Alison Stein. This is a beautifully written debut novel that is getting glowing reviews. Road Out of Winter offers the same literary take on the post-apocalyptic genre as Station 11, but also adds the suspense of Cormac McCarthy's The Road, along with a feminist twist. The main character is a young woman named Willowdean, or Will, who comes from a very poor family in Appalachian, Ohio, and grows marijuana illegally to make ends meet. Her mother left 2 summers ago for California with her boyfriend. After the second year that spring doesn't come to the world, the earth as we know it has fallen into a seemingly never-ending winter. With pipes frozen, water is scarce, and food supply chains are drying up. Then technology starts to fail. With people becoming more desperate, Will decides to travel to California to find her mother, hitching her tiny home to her truck, along with her grow lights and a pouch of seeds. As she makes her way through dangerous territory, dangerous in both the road conditions and the hostile people that she encounters, she ends up collecting a group of people who join her for the trip, quickly becoming her extended family. When the group runs afoul of a local cult, they become an obsession of the cult's leader, who starts to pursue them. Will has a gift that is very valuable in this new world, the ability to make things grow. The bleak landscape, shortage of resources, and changing social structures hit a little closer to home while reading this book, given what's going on in the world today. We are often witnessing the worst of people in the media. The writing and pacing are tense in this book, and you will love the character of Will, who is flawed, but whose earlier challenges have made her a survivor. This is the sort of read that stays with you long after you're finished. Next up is A Russian Sister by Carolyn Adderson. Carolyn was born in Alberta and now lives in Vancouver, BC. She's the author of 4 novels, A History of Forgetting, Sitting Practice, The Sky is Falling, and Ellen in Pieces, as well as short stories and many books for young readers. She's won numerous awards, including the, has also been nominated for the Impact Dublin Award, 2 Commonwealth Writers' Prize, the Gigi and the Rogers Trust Prize and the Giller Prize. Russian Sister is her first historical novel and is just perfect for fans of The Master or The Paris Wife. Set in late 19th century Tsarist Russia, this is a tragic love story inspired by the writer Anton Chekhov and his doomed love affair that inspired the character of Nina in The Seagull. The protagonist is Masha, whose beloved brother, the writer Antosha, comes back from reporting on prison conditions in Siberia and falls into a depression. In an attempt to cheer him up, she introduces her brother to a beautiful fellow teacher, Laika, setting off 7 years of scandal, unrequited love, and jealousy. During this time, Masha too falls in love, but her dreams are crushed. Adderson is very accomplished in her style and has recreated the world of Chekhov in a wonderful way. She's also mastered the Russian tragic style of writing. You will quickly find yourself engrossed in the story, and it's another one that the pages will keep turning upon their own accord as you read well into the night. This book is, again, great for book clubs, lots to discuss. It looks at the roles women play as prey for male needs and male inspiration, as well as being a plea for sisterhood rather than jealousy in women. Now on to a few nonfiction titles. First up is Blackwater by David A. Robertson. David is a Winnipeg-based author who's a member of the Norway House Cree Nation and one of the most influential Canadian Indigenous voices of this generation. Blackwater is the first adult book from this author. He's done several picture books, young adult books, and graphic novels. This is a memoir that speaks to the importance of family and blood memory. David's parents separated when he was very young, and he spent very little time with his dad, Don, when he was young. Don is Cree, and he was raised in a remote area of Manitoba on a trap line, but he lost most of his heritage after being forced to go to a residential school at age 9. He had to learn to speak English and was forbidden to speak his native Cree. When he married David's mother, who was white, they raised the kids apart from their native heritage and not really talking about it. This is a deeply moving memoir that reads like an intergenerational reconciliation story, with David and his father Don finally gaining an understanding of one another. Blackwater is the river or rock where the community would meet after a season of trapping, and where David and his father eventually journeyed together as they tried to reconcile how the trauma of having Don's culture torn away from him affected David's understanding of himself. This book is perfect for readers of From the Ashes and Wab Kinu's The Reason You Walk. And then finally, we have one more, Croissant for the Road by Felicia Clark. My final book is the perfect armchair travel book for food lovers. If people are being really honest, there are a lot of book clubs that are actually food clubs, and this is the perfect book for them. Felicity is a UK-based food journalist with long-term columns that run in both The Guardian and The New Statesman. She's also an avid cyclist and has had a lifelong love of the Tour de France. So inspired by that, she decided to combine her two passions and set off across France on her own 21-stage tour of the country on her trusty bike, Eddie. Unlike the actual Tour de France, though, she isn't going for speed as she is going for the food. On each of the 21 legs of her 2,300 kilometer voyage, she seeks out the best version of a classical regional food from that area, from crepes to tarte tatin, ratatouille to cassoulet. and includes a recipe that readers can try at home. She also includes little pause cafe or coffee breaks in the text to go into further deep depth about topics or to explain the quirks of travel in France. My favorite pause cafe was titled French Opening Hours, a fun guessing game for all the family. At the end of each stage of her journey, she provides a running tally of the kilometers logged, the number and quality of the croissants she has consumed, and the highs and lows of each stage. Her voice is very approachable and funny. You'll be very hungry as you read this one, so curl up with a crusty bread, a nice piece of cheese, and a glass of wine, and be prepared to be transported. As part of our Dewey presentations, we tend to focus on debut authors and hidden gems that might otherwise be missed by book clubs and other readers. However, I did want to point out all of the other well-known authors with new books coming out this fall that would also be great selections for either book clubs or personal reading. You can see the covers on this slide on the screen. There's new books by Canadian literary giants Frances Atani and Emma Donohue's Akin. We've got a second book by Joanna Goodman, The Forgotten Daughter. It's a sequel to The Home for Unwanted Girls. Christina Baker Klein, author of The Orphan Train, has a new book set in Australia called The Exiles. When We Were Young and Brave is the new one from Hazel Gaynor. She's the author of The Lighthouse Keeper's Daughter and Meet Me in Monaco. The Cold Millions is the new book from the author of Beautiful Ruins, Jess Walter. And Better Luck Next Time is by Toronto-based author Kate Hilton. She's the author of The Hole in the Middle and Better Luck Next Time, which I know are book club favorites. So that's my list. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video. I hope you now have a few more titles added to your to-read pile. Happy reading.
We hope you've enjoyed today's presentation with Rosalyn and this whole series with the Dewey Divas. I'd like to give a big thanks to Andrea, Laring, and Rosalyn. Thanks, guys, and to all of you for showing up to check it out. The Dewey Divas will be back in the spring with their 2021 selection, so we hope to see you all there. Until then, see you later.